to the Dream Journal. From the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, the Dream Journal is a weekly show where we explore the power of nighttime dreams through conversations with dream experts and with you. So there's in the words of Carl Jung, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. Today's music is called Equinoxes, after Jean-Michel Jarre. Is reality actually a kind of theater which we make up along the way? The transformative potential of dreamwork, today with author and certified dreamworker, Tina Tao. I'm your host, Catherine Bell of Experiential Dreamwork, and welcome to the Dream Journal. All right, Dream Journal is also a weekly podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and review. But most importantly, tell your friends. Archives are available at Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also at ksqd.org/the-dream-journal. You may have noticed we're having technical difficulties at the Squid, and our podcast system is mostly down. I have now 2 shows plus this one that are released and listenable, but I'm afraid that the archives, the massive over 200 show archives, are currently not available. I'll throw up some more shows as soon as I can, and hopefully we'll be getting our system back online soon. But people who are listening live have no problem with that. So welcome so much to the show. I want to let you know we also are on PRX, and so there's no problem with PRX. If you subscribe there, look up the Dream Journal. That's Public Radio Exchange. You can also find all our shows there, dating back about a dozen shows. So I'm going to start with my personal dream work, and it's the same as last week. What can I say? I'm still really feeling into that moment of swooping up and down in the water with the redheaded boy at the edge of the shore. And I'm just playing in the waves, really up on the beach, down in the water, never fully on dry land, never fully in the water, and but with this boy, this redheaded boy, smiling teenager, connecting. It's really sweet. I'm in Massachusetts right now, visiting my mom, and my father passed away a few days ago, so I'm really bringing in the spirit of Richard Bell. So I'm glad to have him as a kind and caring father. So thank you, Dad. Tina Tao is an adventurer. She is a writer and dreamworker. She lives in Portland, Oregon. Tina is the author of the recent memoir, Ask for Horses, Memoir of a Dream-Guided Life. She believes that dreams are a royal road to a great conversation and a window into a richer version of reality. And her webpage is tinatao.com. Tao is spelled T-A-U. tinatao.com to find out all about our guests.
Hello.
Hello, Tina.
I'm really, really happy to be here. I'm so sorry to hear about your dad.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Glad you can be there with your people.
Yeah, it's important getting together with family, and really talk about being on the edge of the liminal space between the beach and the water. That really seems to be where we're at in the presence of someone passing away, and celebrating his life and all that. So, Tina,
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that liminal space. That's a
Yep.
Sounds like a beautiful place to be. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Good, good. So I just wanted to say that I found out about Tina Tao, and because of the Ashland conference that we just had in June, the IASD conference, and I didn't get to go to your talk because actually your talk was exactly the same time as my talk, and just the next room
Oh,
over. So there was no chance for me to go to that series of talks. But I really love the idea of thinking about consensus reality and what does that even mean, and how do dreams affect our view of that?
yeah. Well, I had a lot of fun giving that talk.
Mm.
I had three dreams that I wanted to talk about, and um, it's and I'll tell one of them here, a short one. We'll see if there's time for others. I just noticed that in the past couple of years, my dreams have really been um, pressuring me to think about what is and isn't real, and the possibility that we're writing our lives, scripting them as theater, and they tell it in such beautiful ways. Um, the dream I'm going to tell you now is short.
Yeah,
The
please.
the big dream that talks so much about theater. We'll see if there's time for that one. But I had this dream April of 2022, so a little over a year ago, and I was really in a crisis time. My partner was in the hospital. He had leukemia, and he'd just been diagnosed with acute leukemia, and he was very freaked out and trying to make decisions about treatment. And I had also, about 6 months before, been diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, and I was doing well, but I needed to take care of myself. And here was Steve, who wanted me full-time in the hospital with him and helping him decide what to do. And my daughter, who lives in Switzerland, was home for 2 weeks at that same time. And I just wanted to be with her every minute. So I was there should have been 3 of me, and I was completely overwhelmed and out of my wig, and just exhausted trying to take care of myself and Steve and be with my daughter. So I had this dream. I'm in a town, or coming into a town. I'm swimming in a canal that's also kind of a whitewater river that flows through the town. And I'm swimming upstream. I'm with some other people, and they're ahead of me, and I'm having just a hell of a time. I'm really tired, wearing out, thinking, I can't do this. I'm too old. I'm not going to catch up with them. It's too much. And then all of a sudden, for no reason that I could see, stood up. And the water was only about a foot deep, 14 inches deep, something like that. Yeah. And I could easily walk. And I could even get out of the canal and walk along on the towpath on the side, which I did, and I walked into town, and I met up with the people I'd been following, and that's the dream. And it was full of messages. I call it stand up. It was the message to, stand up for myself a little bit, and, claim what I wanted to do, not just thinking about what everybody else in the story needed me to do. But what really interested me as I thought about the dream for a while is, how did I know to stand up?
Oh, yeah.
Like on some level, I must have known that it was shallow. And it's like I stopped pretending that it was hard. It just got too hard, so I couldn't go along with that version of my reality anymore. I had to admit to myself what I basically knew, which was, this isn't this isn't the only reality you can be in. It is possible to stand up here and just walk. And it's like, how, like letting myself in on what some part of me already knew. Like I'd been agreeing to play along in some way with the idea that things were hard. And it was hard enough that it somehow broke that spell.
Right.
Anyway, so
because certainly, I'm sorry to, I just want to jump in and so I know these kinds of dreams, like, so that if I'm imagining myself in the dream, that struggling, that sense of swimming upstream and feeling overwhelmed, and it feels very real. It feels like there's no way out. Like it feels intense. And so, how would I even think that there's such an easy way out?
Yeah, I mean, and it did shift things for me. I mean, I realized, for instance, that I could ask for help, and get help, and but it's like some part of me that the dream was aware of said, okay, it's not what you think. You're allowing yourself to believe that this is hard, which it certainly was hard, but that there was in some way a way to stand up, to take a higher view of it, and to step out of the stream. But if there's time, which I guess there is, I'll tell the dream that really talks about theater. It's a much more complicated dream. Are we good with that?
Well, yeah, sure. But I just want to spend another minute here, because this is just such a beautiful, simple example of reality, and like what we think of as reality versus what is reality. Well, if there is, or shall we say, one version of reality and another version of reality, like who knows, maybe that standing up is not real either. And just I want to just highlight that a little bit, because it's just so beautiful, the idea that where I am, like I very often get into a state of being hyper frustrated. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. I can't. I'm overwhelmed. Just don't bother me, But and I know that's the kind of reality that's something I'm telling myself. There's some way that can't be what's really happening, and that this is a story I'm telling myself. And again, I'm really curious about this theater dream, but I just wanted to kind of highlight that sense that very often I'll get to the state of feeling overwhelmed, and even just to have that consciousness is like, maybe I could just stand up here, like have a different mindset. If there's something changed, does that change my view of reality, whether it changes the actual reality or not, or what do we even mean by reality? Just a lot of questions come up for me here, and I know this is not about answering questions. It's just like bringing up the questions. So, yeah.
Well, my the moral of the story that I took from that dream was, don't take yourself so goddamn seriously.
Yes.
And keep asking myself the question, which I often do. So, what would it mean to stand up here? In this moment, how would that look? It's much more of a question than an answer here, but that's alive for me. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, please. So let me hear the dream about the theater now, please, if you're ready.
Well, sure. So I had this, I don't know, 4 or 5, 6 years ago. It's called The Pyre, and when I had it, I was about to go through a really distressing time, which I didn't realize I was going to go through. And yeah, so this is definitely a longer dream. So in the dream, I'm in a field and I'm watching action at a distance. The people are really tiny over there, but I can see there's a little drama unfolding. There's a village, and there's a witch who lives in the village, and she's feeling thwarted by the other villagers. So she's building a pyre to burn herself on. And the villagers are racing around trying to stop her. And as soon as I realize this is what's happening, I run over there, and I'm instantly in the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I see her pyre. The base of it is this cube of compressed living animals, horses, cows, pigs, and they're all smashed together into this cube about 20 foot cubic,
Whoa.
like that. And on top of that, she's got this little driftwood hut, and she's going to stand on top of the whole thing and burn it all up. And so I run over and I start to extract animals from the cube, just the young ones, a foal and a little piglet and so on. And my idea is that I'll be destabilizing her structure, and because I'm pulling stuff out of it, and it'll fall over and it won't work. But so I'm pulling these animals out, and I'm turning around, putting them in a pond behind me, and over my shoulder I see this tower of flame. So she's done it. My work didn't make any difference at all. So that's very intense, terrifying. And then the next scene, I mean, it morphs then into this scene of like a battlefield or a blasted heath, a battlefield after the battle. And there's this huge black bird, maybe 80, 90 feet across, that's with a white skeleton head. It's hanging over the field like the bird of death. And the whole scene is like ashes and, King Lear out on the moor. It's terrible.
Wow, yeah.
I mean, and I'm standing there with my boyfriend, and I'm trying to get him to notice this bird. And as I look at the bird, after a while, I realize there are wires on the wings that go up into the sky. And I realized that the wings are made of cloth, black cloth, which I'm sure at first it was a living bird, and the wings were flesh, like a bat. But at this moment, the wings are black cloth, and the wires going up, and I'm thinking, oh my God, it's a puppet. It's some huge puppet. Well, who's big enough to run that puppet? I ask myself. This is the key question in the dream. And God, my next question. And as I ask that question, the bird, it's like a stage set or something. The bird turns inside out. The wires, it becomes a ship. And the black wings turn white, and they become the canvas sails of a tall ship, and the wires on the wings become the rigging. And here's this ship now, full-size ship, but it's on a stage. It's like HMS Pinafore, if a performance of that or something. And on the deck is the Queen, and there are flags flying, and the sun is shining, and there's a band playing, and I'm standing on the ground with these little animals still in the pond behind me, and I'm looking up at the Queen and this whole scene, which has been transformed from disaster and tragedy into shining joy. And I think, no, I'm informed. An invisible voice says, this whole thing happened, the whole burning of the witch, the bird, and everything, because someone wanted to see the Queen. Okay, so that's the end of the dream.
Okay.
And, lots in my life happened that the dream helped to make sense of. But again, as I thought about it more over time, I thought, that dream was all in the language of theater. The opening scene, there's a drama unfolding. And I'm the audience at first. I'm big at first. You might want to say, big enough to run that puppet, right? I'm huge, because I'm seeing this action in the distance of these tiny little people. Okay, but I forgot all along when I was thinking about this dream, how big I was at the beginning. I shrank myself to get into the story. I raced over there. Okay, so there's that. There's a 3-act nature of the thing. Very vivid, the witch, the blackbird, and then the joyful ending. There's all these references to theater. The King Lear HMS Pinafore, the stage, the sort of stage scenery feeling of the bird turning inside out and becoming a ship. The fact that the part of the ship is still in the wings, and then the whole puppet thing. And the dream was so I was really interested. Okay, so the dream is really insistent about the theater imagery of this story, and kind of framing the crisis I was about to go through in this way. Like, you have set this up. But the question that the dream revolves around is, who's big enough to run that puppet anyway?
Okay, yeah.
And because that's the moment when I ask that, the bird turns into the ship. And so that's what the dream wants me to think about. I think, who is big enough to run that puppet? So that's like 300 feet high, somebody who's big enough to run that puppet. So it's been encouraging me to think, well, who am I really? Am I big enough to run that puppet?
Yeah. Oh, am I big enough? Okay. Yeah.
And what would it mean to be that? I mean, I totally identify with the person who's trying to save the little animals, but the ending thing that the voice told me in the dream. So this all happened because somebody wanted to see the Queen. Okay, well, I saw the Queen, so that it all happened because I wanted to see the Queen, which, like, the story of the dream transforms the witch into the Queen. Right? It's like a phoenix thing. She gets burned up, and then that's who she is at the beginning, and then at the end, there's the Queen. So that's me, I think, turning from a witch into a queen by means of this drama. But how does that work? It works by means of this question. By noticing that there are wires on the wings of our catastrophe. That when you notice the wires and you ask the question, you begin to wonder, everything changes. It's like that moment when I stand up in the stream, right? Things look entirely different.
Right,
and again, it's
right.
not, right. Yeah.
So it's interesting because these are dreams that we're talking about, and yet there's something about waking life reality here too. Like I shared with you my experience of being super frustrated in waking life, and yet realizing that just a shift of awareness could really get me out of that frustration, maybe even shifting frustration to excitement or something. So tell me how this applies to waking life. Like, what have you been exploring about this whole idea of consensus reality? The idea of consensus is like something we all agree on.
Yeah. Well, it's not like I don't, Okay, it's not like I don't participate in consensus reality, or it doesn't still feel very real, but it's I have a looser grip on it, right? It's not like I believe in it so completely. I'm more likely to be amused and wonder and think, okay, this thing that I am inclined to take seriously, I wonder if that's really really true, or if there's some freedom here that I'm not seeing. It's like I'm not quite as pulled in or drawn in. I'm more likely to be able to wonder or to laugh. that dream really helped me with the crisis that I went through, because when I realized, about 6 months later, what the dream had foretold, this really tough time in my life, I realized, okay, there's a happy ending in the dream, so I could maybe trust that the dream, people writing the dream had a line on the happy ending as well as the disaster. And I ended up sailing on a tall ship across the Atlantic Ocean for 6 weeks as a result of that dream.
Thinking, this is waking life, right?
That's in waking life. I did that.
In waking.
Yeah, I thought I could maybe, nurture the dream, encourage the happy ending, see the Queen. Maybe if I got on a tall ship and sailed across the ocean, which was fantastic. It was a great and beautiful adventure, and it did help with my grief. But so consensus reality, we've all agreed to believe in this thing. And we know from science, all kinds of science research, this is just our version. This is a human filtered version of what's happening, and it's very culturally filtered, and it's filtered through our childhood experiences, and it's filtered through our the limitations of our senses and all that. But it's hard to step outside that and not take it so seriously. But it's wonderful to shake it a little. And I do feel my dreams over the years, some lucid dreams and so on, just have given me the sense that I'm being instructed to loosen up, lighten up, look further. Sometimes I think of myself as like Harold and the Purple Crayon books.
Oh yeah, I remember those.
He walks along with his purple crayon and he creates the world as he goes, and he gets into trouble, and his hand wobbles, and then he builds himself a ship, and he finds his way home, all by using this crayon. It's like I'm aware that I'm like that. I'm kind of like Harold.
Right. I love that. That book. I totally remember that. So I want to let you know, Tina, that we have somebody on the phone. We have, is it Greg or Gary on the phone? There's Gary, a friend of yours, apparently. But we're going to take a short break. So Gary, hang in there. We're going to get right back to you. We're going to get out to Gary, and we'll get right back to Tina Tao in just a moment. We're going to take a super quick station break, and you're listening to The Dream Journal. My name is Catherine Bell, and we're talking today about dreams and consensus reality. We have more to talk about, including the idea of climate change crisis, and also Ask for Horses. This is Tina's new book, Ask for Horses, Memoir of a Dream-Guided Life. You're listening to KSQD Santa Cruz. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back to the Dream Journal. I want to let you know that next week we will be speaking to David Selak, all the way from Australia. We'll be talking about his ideas around a superior sleep schedule, plus the Seth materials and what they have to say about dreaming. So my name is Catherine Bell. You're listening to The Dream Journal. We're talking about consensus reality with Tina Tao. So we also have a phone caller. So let's go ahead and open up the line to Gary, also from Oregon. So hello, Gary.
Hello. Hi, Catherine. Hi, Tina.
Hi, Gary.
Excellent. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, thanks for doing this show and sharing the good news of what's possible and bringing our dreaming reality to waking reality.
Yeah, what's been your experience, Gary? What's on your mind?
Well, I have a dream that I'm prepared to share, and yeah, so maybe for the sake of time and expediency, I could just get right into it.
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay, great. So the title of this dream is The Return to Yosemite. So I'm driving in Northern California when the dream opens, and it's these wild and fantastic roads that are more like a roller coaster than roads, but in the kind of in the laws of the universe of this dream, it all seems quite normal. These very exaggerated banking turns and kind of these very rolling hills with steep inclines and declines, and it's so beautiful. I'm just as I drive, I'm just in awe of the beauty, and I'm aware that I'm driving along both the coast, and I'm also know that I'm near Yosemite. So it's just an interesting reality about this dream, and I realize I haven't been to this area for a really long time. And I forget just how beautiful the natural environment is, and then also some of the beautiful things that were created to be part of this area. So as I'm driving, I see this it's like a planetarium facility, and there's these 3 large domes. And all of it is just beautiful. So it kind of blends into the natural beauty, but it's also these created, beautifully painted on the outside domes. And I'm thinking, I have to keep moving, but I want to come back to see what the planetarium shows might be like in these wild and fantastic domes. And as I'm driving along, I see some other facility that's it's like a natural museum or something like that, and it's kind of the same thing. It's just gorgeously painted. It's also like natural stone, and just blends seamlessly in with the natural environment. As I'm driving along, I'm seeing down into this river, and there's all of these very large fish, and I think to myself, oh yes, I remember there can be really large fish in this river, and I think, I've got to come back here to do some fishing. I'm really looking forward to that. So just a sense of like recall, like I've been in this environment before, in a sense of okay, now that I'm recalling, I want to spend more time in this place. Like this would be a really good and wholesome thing to do. And I think, and that's pretty much the entirety of the dream.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any sense of like what you're most curious about? I mean, I have some thoughts on what Tina has to say, but like, what part of the dream is most compelling for you that you're most curious about?
I think it's both the strong sense of recall, the sense of it's familiar, and yet in my waking life, I have moments of that feeling, but for certain, I don't have a waking life sense of visiting a place like that. It was so like over the top, incredibly beautiful. So it seems to be kind of maybe a summation of maybe states that I've experienced, or a sense of my natural state that I'm returning to.
My natural state that I'm returning to. I just wanted to highlight that, Gary. I love that.
Yeah, thank you. But what strikes me the most is this view of these 3 domes. They're just, I mean, it was jaw dropping, and I woke up from the dream a little bit tearful. It was so beautiful. So there's something about these 3 domes that just really capture my attention.
Thank you, Gary. So, Tina, what's coming up for you around this stream?
Wow. Well, I do love that sense of this is my natural state in some way, and I've had dreams like that where I was kind of in a luminous space that felt like a place I'd been before, that I belonged to, and that it's like the sweetness of that. It seems like a super good sign, Gary, of a space that you might be entering into in your life, or allowing yourself to explore. And I am curious about the domes and the planetariums, and what do you have any hints about what those might be about in your psyche or your waking life?
I think there's this. There's a sense of how beautiful they are on the outside, and that people would take the time to create that, and also create it with a sense of how does it harmonize with the natural surroundings, even though it's going to be a very, I guess, quote unquote, unnatural structure. There's these, very perfectly round domes, almost like balls, sitting on the ground with just kind of just a little bit of the base underground. They're almost spherical, sitting on the surface, but that people are able to pull that off, and that inside is this kind of going to be some exploration of the vastness of the cosmos. And as I kind of think about it now, like, I actually don't know what kind of shows they're having inside there. My dream consciousness is assuming what it is, but it could be a myriad of things that take place in these three domes. And
well, if we take it at face value, I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in, Gary, because I'd say if you take it at face value, the idea that I can't restrain myself anymore. I'm excited about this. The planetarium. I mean, I worked in planetarium for a couple of years when I was in college. I'm an astrophysicist by training, as most know. And it's like the representation of the cosmos. Like, you're talking about the cosmos, it's a projection inside a dome, and yet it helps people to really imagine the truth of, well, the best of our understanding of reality. And this really ties in with our whole idea of consensus reality, that it's not true, but it says something that is true, and it helps us to see something that's true, even though it itself is not true. Like the little dots, right? The little dots on the ceiling are just little dots of light in the darkness. They're not really stars and galaxies, and yet they're helping people to understand what is too big for the mind to comprehend in any other way. So it really ties in with this whole idea of reality, and what is it, and like there's these symbols, these things that help us understand reality, but they themselves are not reality. It's like the difference between worshiping an icon versus what the icon represents.
Yeah. Oh, I love that, Catherine. And the sense that that's like a dream, right? Inside our heads, these little points of light are moving around and representing reality. It's not reality, but it's like a dream, like a projector inside our skull. Exactly.
Tina, I know that.
Yeah, where our heads are like planetariums, our dreaming minds are like that.
Right. Gary, thank you. This is very interesting. Also, the sense of I keep having to come back here. I'm going to come back, and yet I'm here right now. Like, can I stay a little longer?
Right. Can I stay a little longer? Can I linger a little longer? Right. Yeah. And it's great. What's opening up for me is just seeing how that's. I think if dreamwork has given me anything, it's just the practice of how does one's life, or how does my life seamlessly blend into the natural environment. How can I live more consistent with a harmonious coexistence in life, with people and with nature, and ideally to set an example that maybe this is possible for humans. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Gary. That's beautiful. I think
that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks,
well,
Gary.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, take care. Thanks for listening to the Dream Journal.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Okay, take care.
All right. Okay, bye, Gary.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Let me talk about consensus reality. Like the dreams that we have every night are something that happens just inside our own heads, and so it's pretty clearly not real to anybody except for the dreamer. And yet it seems incredibly real when we're in it. And like I think about life, like my father just passed away, and wondering if he's just now waking up. Like, is there a way that this life is a dream and he's waking up to some other reality that's at another level?
Well, yeah. That question is very alive, right?
Yeah.
Was this a dream?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the more we can wonder about that while we're alive, I think the maybe the easier our passage into death, right? If we are curious, let's see. Yeah, and we think that this might be a dream. We might be prepared to think of death as a waking up, right? So
yeah. I wonder.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't know, but yeah, I think quite a bit about that. Lots of people in my life have died, and yeah. Anyway, we have another caller somewhere.
We do. We do indeed have another caller. We have Kristen from Virginia on line 2. Yeah, there, Kristen. Can you hear us? Hi. Thanks for calling.
You're welcome. So I've been facing a pretty big decision about moving back across the country from Virginia back to Idaho, where I want to be, where I lived before. And I've had some dreams about that, and I'd like to share one that seems pretty crystal clear, but just thought I would share it and maybe get a different viewpoint.
Absolutely. It's always good to speak out loud and see what it comes up for you then. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So I'm living in a condo back in Idaho in this dream. I'm on beautiful Lake Coeur d'Alene in this little condo, and there's like a deck walkway, and literally the lake is right under the condo. And it's just, the sun is shining through, and it's just gleaming and beautiful, and I can see the light refracting in the water. And there's the big boulders. There's a lot of big boulders and rocks over there. And it's kind of like the condo is just very secure in that little spot. And I'm going to have a potluck, and in come some friends. My door is open, and my condo is on the very end of this little walkway on the water. And they're coming in to share in this potluck with me. And one of them is my friend Julie, who's the music director at Unity Church, where I used to go in Idaho. And she has a dish of food in her hands that she's carrying. Everybody is smiling, and the mood is very bright and happy. And the funny thing is in my dream, I'm still married to my ex-husband, who still lives over that way. And he's walking out the door as people are coming in the door. And I think the house inside is kind of bright, like light yellows and whites. It's very cheerful and open. I've been divorced from him since 2011, and I keep dreaming that we're still married, which to me is kind of frustrating because I feel like I'm over it, and I don't know why I keep dreaming that I'm still married to him. But anyway, he's leaving out the front door, and the funny thing is that the frame around the door is very like black lacquer paint around it, and it's just such a contrast with the pale yellow and the white in the house. And I notice as I'm saying goodbye, and he's walking away, I'm trying to shut the door, or I just notice there's a problem to where the lock is broken on the door, and I cannot lock it at all. I wasn't worried about locking it in that moment, but he was going to be gone for a long time, and then I was just very concerned about this lock, and I kind of pointed it out to him, and he did not care in the least, and he just walked away. And that was it.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious what is the jumps out at you now after sharing this? Are there feelings in the dream that that kind of came up as you were sharing?
Well, it's kind of like, so he stayed in North Idaho when I left, and it wasn't a terrible divorce or anything, but we're not really in communication. And I guess I'm a little bit concerned about going back to that area, because usually the women in my family, whenever they get divorced, they move like a state away or 2 or 3 states away from the other person. And I didn't need to do that for safety or anything, but I'm curious why I keep dreaming I'm married to him, because I'm over it and everything. And
well, let's see if, I mean, can we just let's see if Tina has any thoughts. We have only about 5 minutes left in the show, and I want to make just but I'm really glad that you called, and I'm curious what's going to come of this. So Tina, do you want to get your 2 cents worth in here, and then we'll go back to Kristen.
Yeah, well, I'm struck by the door that won't lock, and also your sense that you can't stop dreaming about him, even though you'd like to. That there's a part of me, if this were my dream, that I haven't figured out how to close the door on this relationship, and for me to move back into that joyful space in Idaho, which I clearly want to go to, I do need to figure out where the lock is. That would be my if it were my dream.
Sorry.
I would be thinking something about that. Where is it that the lock exists in me? Do I need it? What would it look like for me to be able to close that door more securely?
Yeah. Good questions,
But I'm very struck by the the beauty of the space that.
And the friends all bringing food. Friends are bringing food. Sounds great.
Yeah. So.
And he's going out the door. That's good. Maybe that's good.
That's true. Yeah. Maybe it's my brain just reminding me that is over, and he's not worried about it in the dream at all. He's not worried about the door not being able to be locked. So maybe it's telling me that I don't have anything to worry about. I don't know.
Okay. Well, thanks for calling, Kristen. I appreciate you bringing this in, and there is something like I dreamed of my ex for many, many years after we broke up. He still shows up occasionally, and it's certainly a common thing. And I don't think it means we want to get back together, because I don't. Definitely don't.
Right.
No. And I wonder, like, talk about our own reality. Is there some way that he was part of my life for so long that it's kind of in there? It's kind of a part of me now in some ways. Try to think of it that way. That's how I try to think about it when he shows up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. I kind of don't really enjoy dreaming about somebody that I used to be with. And it's
understandable.
Like a lot. I dream it a lot.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kristen.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye, Kristen.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
So, Tina, this has been amazing. I want to say again, you're at tinatao.com. Your book, which has been out for about a year or less, Ask for Horses, Memoir of a Dream
Yep.
Guided Life. And if you want to take 1 minute, you could say any kind of encouragement you like, or you could bring in your idea about the climate change topic we didn't get to. If you have how do you want to finish with this, Tina?
Well, I'm really interested in consulting dreams about the climate change crisis. So I think there's a tremendous amount of intelligence there that we could tap. So that's another conversation. Yeah, my book is lovely. So I encourage people to look at it on my website or, think about it. It's
So
the culmination of years and years of work.
Just give us a 15-second synopsis of what makes this book special. What is it different from other memoirs?
Well, it's woven together, my life story, woven together with 40 of my big dreams. And the story, I tell a story about my life. I tell a dream that came at that time, and then how the dream helped me shift. I wasn't very good at living my life by myself, and so I was very grateful for and dependent on, as it turned out, the help of some dreams. So it's not quite half dream, but the dreams are a deep part of the story, and they're amazing. Some of them, the reason I started to write the book in the first place is some of these dreams are too big for my life. They're clearly like the dream Ask for Horses, the title dream.
Yeah.
It belongs. I would love to share this with the world. It's
great.
about
Thank you.
Asking bigger, not settling for what's laid out on the carpet for you, but asking for something that will blow your life wide open. Right?
If we're going to set the theater of our own life, then why not ask for horses? Thank you, Tina.
Thank you, Catherine. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Take care now. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, everybody, thank you so much for listening. The Dream Journal is produced at the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, and we are live every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific, ksqd.org. Podcast is released on the Monday after the show. It keeps us growing when you subscribe, rate, and review. I am Catherine Bell. You can find out about my dream coaching practice at experientialdreamwork.com. You can email me at catherine@ksqd.org. That's KATHERINE@ksqd.org. You can follow me on Experiential Dreamwork on Facebook and Instagram to find out about upcoming shows. I'd like to thank Rick Kleffel, engineer and music creator, and also Tony Rosamano for wrangling the phones. The intro music is Water Over Stones. This outro music is called Everything, and they're both by Mood Science. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, take a minute to write down your dream and bring it to the next Dream Journal.
Knows that so